Well done. You're lords and masters.
Alright. Hello and welcome to day 1 of the Genesis Vandrazani Advent Calendar for 2020. We are back here once again, and as always for the first day of the calendar I always have Adam on.
Hello.
This is the 3rd year that we've done this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is definitely the weirdest year of it.
Oh, certainly. Yes, indeed.
Yes. Because the first time we did it in 2018, day 1 was... I can't even remember what that was. I don't even think you were on that one. Was that like the Christmas special one I did? I can't even fucking remember.
I think it was, or it was our ranking underrated episodes or something.
No. I know, but on last year's one we did the Genesis of the Daleks vs. Caves of Androzani.
That's right.
Debate. But, yeah, so we're here for day 1, which is certainly and most definitely not being filmed after many others that I've already done. Yeah, it was. It was a bloody Christmas special ranking. I don't even agree with that list anymore.
Yeah, well, these things ebb and flow, which is why what we're doing today isn't ranked.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
so we don't have to deal with that anymore.
Exactly, ranking's out the window. But
because like for example, on that Christmas special one that I did 2 years ago, I had like Husbands of River Song really low and Time of the Doctor really high, and then now if I did it, those would be like flipped.
Yeah, absolutely. But I could see at the time where you were coming from, but hindsight being 2020, I completely agree that they're flipped.
Yeah.
I think the Husbands of River Song is vastly better.
Oh, yeah. And also, recently, I mean, when this comes out, it won't be too recently, but recently in our time, I think it was even last week, there was a live stream on Lord Slars channel where there was 7 of us and we, like, argued and ranked all the Christmas specials, and the Husbands of River Song ended up being number 1.
That's genuinely not what I would expect on that channel.
Yeah, because it was all 7 of us agreed that it was really good.
Yeah.
Somehow.
I mean,
and like Dylan put it best. He's like Stephen Moffat doing a Christmas special after Hell Bent with River Song in it, and yet it was really funny.
Yeah, it was really endearing and sweet, and also tied up their arc in a nice little unconvoluted bow.
And Peter Capaldi had more chemistry with her in 1 episode than Matt Smith did in like 10.
I agree.
Anyway, we're mucking around here.
Yes.
We are here on day 1 to do our 20 favourite Murray Gold tracks.
Indeed we are.
Yes. So Murray Gold obviously did the music for Doctor Who from series 1 to 10, though we don't have a series 10 soundtrack yet. We need it.
Yes,
because it's been 3.5 years since series 10 aired, believe it or not.
Jesus.
But yes, hopefully he'll work on it soon. But yeah, we are going to be doing our 20 favourite Murray Gold tracks. The way it's going to work is we have written down 20 each. If we have any of the same, which I'm sure we may have, we'll snap and talk about them together. Yep. There is one example where there is one that I absolutely 100% would have had on my list, but because I know that it's on yours,
yes,
I've chosen not to, so I can have a bit more variety. I've been tactical.
Yes, fair enough.
This is a tactical one because I think there's a lot to talk about, because Murray Gold's music is so good that not only did I have to make it not just a 10 but a 20 favourite, but then it was even hard to get 20. Because,
yeah.
And in that, there's multiple times in this list where more than one theme will count as one place that I'm talking about because they connect.
It's all, yeah. The actual idea of themes is what he was so good at.
Yeah.
Both, musically and, textually.
Yes, because even if we were just doing individual tracks that were released, a top 50 would still be hard.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. So, this was a hard one to do, but we've done it. And it should be fun because we love Murray Gold.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward. I think this is also one that a lot of people have been requesting on the channel for a while. So I think it's been a long time coming.
Yep.
As will be some of the other videos that are going to be coming up in the calendar that none of you have seen yet.
Ooh, mysterious.
Things that people have been waiting for a while that we know are happening and have been filmed. Actually, no, they will be filmed. Alright, so I'm going to start.
Yep.
My first pick is a really obvious one. If you've seen the channel and you've seen us, and specifically Jake, talk about this one, it's from our most viewed Doctor Who video on the channel, because X-Men 3 for some reason is still the most viewed video on the channel. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Jake talked at length about this one. It's the Lone Dalek from Dalek.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So this one is just exquisite. It's quite a long track, but the main thing that I really take away from it is the fact that it manages to go through so many phases of emotion within the music. It's telling a story about a Dalek committing suicide and a whole race having been committed genocide by the Doctor, who is our protagonist. And the way Murray Gold goes through it with blending the, there's the darker elements, like the horror elements, but then it transitions through, you get like the epic orchestra bits, which, by the way, all done on his fucking computer.
Yep.
And this series. But it's when you get to the end where it becomes sad, and it's very representation of the Dalek in that story being infected by Rose's DNA and feeling real emotion. And then at the very end, it becomes this uplifting, just emotional outburst. And it's about a suicide, but you still feel satisfied and complete about it, which just, I feel like that song perfectly embodies the kind of writing Rob Sherman puts into his scripts.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, the best use of music... I mean, obviously, soundtrack is so subjective, because sometimes the lack of a soundtrack can be just as powerful as the inclusion of one. But in this case, this is such a brilliant example of the music tying the whole piece of writing and everything, the whole story, together, because it basically conveys the whole arc emotionally of the Doctor and the Dalek, and even Rose, to an extent. And ties it together in this piece of music, which then just elevates what's going on screen. It just is that last piece of the puzzle, which ties this brilliant piece of television all together.
The part that gives me goosebumps is when the chorus comes in with the vocals.
Yes, absolutely.
It's so overwhelmingly emotional. I'm like my hairs are standing up thinking about it. It's a beautiful track, The Lone Dalek. It's I think, I love the music from, Rose, End of the World, Unquite Dead, and the Celine part. It's a lot of fun, Westminster Bridge and the Celine theme, and, that's all great. But I feel like The Lone Dalek is, Murray Gold's first masterpiece on the show,
Yeah.
It's the first time that you really got a feeling of, no, this is something special.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. So, alright, what's your first choice?
My first choice, it's a pretty simple one, but it's the Cybermen theme.
Ah, yes.
It's nowhere near as complex, per se, in terms of the emotional stakes of what's going on, but simply how it represents the characters of the Cybermen within the stories that they appear in, and how it feels, the tone of it, the sort of cold, calculated, but thumping, really sort of rhythmic and forward-moving, and just... it feels like the March of the Cybermen. I don't think that's what it's called, but it essentially feels like...
March of the Cybermen is actually the 80s theme.
Exactly.
This was just called the Cyberman.
Yes. And I don't really have much to say about it beyond that it just... it encapsulates one of, if not my favourite Doctor Who monster. I love the Cybermen, as people on this channel know. Yeah. But also, just, it's one of those ones, whenever you hear it, you're like, yes, good, alright, we're here with the Cybermen.
I feel like throughout the whole show, through Classic and New Who, the Cybermen are consistently the villain that gets the best music. Always. Yes. Because the 60s theme is brilliant. The 80s...
Oh god, it's so haunting, the 60s one.
Yeah, then you got the 80s theme, the big build-up and, the clanking metal, and then the reveal. And especially at the cliffhangers with David Banks' big voice going over it. Excellent.
Yes.
And then you've got, obviously, this theme for the Murray Gold Cybermen, which is just epic. And then, of course, you've got the Sega Economical theme, which is just this big clanking of metal, and it's awesome.
the second acknowledgement, also by us doing this list is by no means, and Sagan Akinol has done 2 seasons so far, and a lot of what he does is the best stuff coming out of the show, in my opinion.
The Series 12 soundtrack is one of the best we've ever had.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's by far in large my favorite thing about Series 12 is Sagan Akinola. Like not even close. He uplifts episodes with his music.
Yes, but it's just purely because we grew up with Murray Gold's music in Doctor Who, but also because we have it all catalogued in some form or another. It's all there, so we can pick and choose what it is.
And this also isn't against anyone from Classic Who either, because there's a lot of great composition in Classic Who, like Dudley Simpson, Peter Howell, Dominic Glynn, Kath McCulloch, and there's a bunch of ones there as well. The only one that I'm not too keen on is Carrie Blyton, which is the exception to the rule. Like the Cybermen, the Silurian music in Classic Who is awful.
Yeah, it certainly is something.
But yeah, anyway, the Cybermen theme.
Yes, and also the one sort of last little note I'd like to make about the Cybermen theme is it's sort of classically villainous. It's just got this sort of level of enough camp to suit the Cybermen with enough menace to make them feel legitimate as a threat.
Yeah. And
it's just
the different layers of it. You've got like the sort of the entrance theme, like the but then it also transitions into like an action theme as well, like the and it has a lot of different purposes. One of my favorite things is how in Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel, Murray Gold used different arrangements of the theme to suit the scene. Like there's a lot of the scenes when they're close to the factory, he uses this like soft piano version of the theme, and it's I love it. I love the way he weaves that theme throughout the whole story. Yeah, I mean the whole aesthetic of that two-parter, visually and sound, is exquisite. It's so good. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So should I go on my second one?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. My second pick is also from Series 2. It is Madame de Pompadour.
I cannot believe I didn't put that on the list. That completely slipped my mind. I'm not going to change my list, but I feel like an idiot for not even thinking of that one.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Madame de Pompadour is, like, I think overall, The Girl in the Fireplace is an episode. The music is very purpose-built. You can tell Murray Gold spent a lot of time making music that is exclusive to that episode and doesn't really get used in anything else. So it's got a very distinct soundtrack. It's very old-sounding, very, French historical. But that theme and what I like to call Act 4 of the story, after the Doctor comes back through the fireplace to find out that she's dead and he gets the letter, and you just get that theme to play against the sadness of her death. It's amazing. It's so like the whole thing is just perfect. Like it's this lovely, old sounding but really sad piece of music. But it's not overplayed. It's not gushy. It's really like controlled and quite classic in a way.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's just so simple.
Yeah.
And in the best way. I don't mean that to undercut what it is.
I think it's probably Murray Gold's best piano work in the show. Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't argue with that. It's brilliant.
Dun, 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 dun. That's lovely.
It absolutely is.
And I think it's a perfect song to end the episode on, especially like with the scene with the Doctor in the TARDIS by himself, and then it pans out and you see the painting of her as it materializes, and then you see the ship flip and it says SS Madame de Pompadour. It's just
yes,
with
that slow reveal.
It's so well put, like in the episode, so well functioning. It's brilliant. So your second choice.
Alright, my second choice is another emotional one, which is probably the equivalent, but for Series 3. It's called The Dream of a Normal Death.
Snap.
Yep, there we go. I thought it might be. Pretty much for all the same reasons, except it's the Doctor mourning a life that he couldn't have.
Yes!
And that's brilliant.
And it perfectly encapsulates the 10th Doctor's character arc as well. The fact that what he wants originally with Rose Tyler is to have... He's like, can I be a human that has a relationship with another human? And the answer is no. And then that is just further emphasized in The Family of Blood when he sees what it could have been like with Joan Redfern. And and he knows that he can't ever have that. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. And it's just this whole, I mean, even if you took all the sci-fi out of it and we saw, like, this was the last we saw of this character, like the John Smith character, like, say, it was a mini-series that was wrapping up and we got to see how their life unfolded eventually, post-war and everything, and he had the family and he was surrounded by loved ones when he died. It would be a beautiful send-off to that character, but there's more going on because it informs not only John Smith, Joan Redfern, Martha, it also informs, as you said, the Doctor himself, and it's this whole beautiful eulogy of a song. It's just terrific. It's stunning.
Yeah, and I love the way how it's a really complex way to like climax the story, because if he didn't turn back into the Doctor, they wouldn't have been able to stop the family. But him stopping the family killed John Smith, and when you put things in perspective, especially when Joan Redfern puts things in perspective, it makes the Doctor look like a much lesser man than John Smith.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is such a hit to his ego.
And it's this thing of the perfect balance. I mean, not perfect balance, it's the perfect meeting of the soundtrack and the writing and everything else going on in the episode.
God.
Where Paul Cornell and Murray Gold are just on the same wavelength. It just clicks in together, and it never goes too far, it's never not enough, it's just exactly what it needs to be, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I can't wait for Jake to see that two-parter.
Oh god, yeah.
I think he's going to absolutely love it. It's so up his alley. Like, dark character drama is his pinnacle. And to be completely honest, it's also mine. Alright, yeah. I snapped as well. Cool. So I should go... That means I'll go on to my fourth pick.
Yep.
Going back to Series 2.
Yep.
The Impossible Planet. As we said when we did the review, it has that old funeral sound to it.
Yes.
And it's really alien, especially because, like, I know that they technically went to New Earth, but this is the first time that they went to not just an alien planet, but an alien planet that isn't familiar to a human. Like, it's not inhabited, it's an uninhabited planet.
There's a great unknown to it.
And the way that this theme, like, it not only fits so well with the black hole, but also the beast. Like, the suggestion there is something going on here. And the old sound, it fits the whole thing of... They find this language that the TARDIS can't translate, that's before time. And when you listen to this score, it sounds like it's before time. It has... It's just this thing of just completely ethereal and unknowable, and it's distressing and haunting in a way that certain tracks that try to be spooky aren't quite the same, because it again taps into exactly what the idea and the notion and the tone of the episode is, and nails it. It just completely gets it and enhances it even. And when a brilliant piece of music. And I believe it's string. But when that old like, it almost sounds like it's rusty. That old rusty string hits, spine chilling. I get very, like, not unsettled, but like it's scary to me. The sound of that string that hits, so it's like it's not a comfortable sound, but it's in the best way possible. Like, it's an unnerving sound because it's not familiar. It's not like a creepy sort of jump scare horror sound. It's not It's not like a bombastic attacking sound. It's not like a feathery sort of hair standing on your arm sound. It's not. You know, it's
Yeah.
not violent, loud, like psycho thriller sound. It's just old and alien and uncomfortable and not normal.
It sort of feels like a Lovecraftian thing almost, where it's this sort of unknowable knowledge, this forbidden, deep, unlockable thing,
Yeah.
where humans should not be able to experience it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like when you watch like for example, like I haven't watched that much anime, but I've watched one in particular that goes very much into like ancient, like old souls and demons and Egyptian stuff and Greek stuff, and it's like a lot of the time it tries to big itself up on this like there's this old force that's come back to rule the world, and sometimes it's quite like cheesy and I don't really believe it, but when I hear this soundtrack in The Impossible Planet, like this is the feeling that those kind of things want it to be. It's this kind of old sound, and that's, I feel like this track really complements building up to the beast, and like you really getting the right feeling of what this is going to be, and it's so different to everything that came before that in New Who that I think it really strikes a balance and a really distinct tone.
Yeah, it absolutely stands out.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Especially considering the kind of TARDIS team that were in the story. Like, this is very almost juxtaposition to the kind of adventures they've been having.
Yeah.
Like, right before this story was The Idiot's Lantern, which was a romp. And then they jump right into this, and it's a really challenging story for their characters. So I think, again, like, the theme just complements the whole story. Right, so do you want to go for your next pick?
Yes. I will go for A Noble Girl About Town.
Also known as Donna's Theme as well.
Correct. Also known as Donna's Theme. It is such a perfect representation of Donna as a character. I mean, immediately it puts me in a sort of jaunty, good mood, because it's ding, ding, doo, 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 ding, 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 doo, 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 doo. It's just this. Just as soon as Series 4 starts, after the Christmas special, like as soon as Episode 1, Partners in Crime starts, and you're just like, okay, we're off to the races. We're here, Donna's back, and it's...
Doesn't waste any time, does it?
No, it's just exact. It's like, bam, here we are, Donna, with this music, and it just perfectly encapsulates her. And also, it being such a vibrant and bubbly and fun and encouraging and enjoyable piece of music, which matches her personality and especially her chemistry with David Tennant and the Doctor, it makes the tragedy of Series 4 of where her character ends up even more potent and powerful.
Absolutely.
It sort of starts so bubbly and fun and ends where it ends, and it just helps create this tragic but also really humorous bookend to contrast between where Donna starts and where she ends up, which is ostensibly the same, but in a really brilliant and tragic way.
And also,
it doesn't. Yeah.
This is one of those examples where the remix is actually better than the original, and the reason why is that the original is like, it's this theme that's made for her, and it really fits her character. It has the comedic part, and then also the more tragic part, obviously with her and Lance in The Runaway Bride. But it's very much built in purpose for who she was in that one episode. Whereas A Noble Girl About Town in Partners in Crime, there's so much more to it. She's so much more part of the story now, and like
she's more matured as well.
Her character
and
is
it's just
revitalized, and I think the scene where Donna really becomes a great character is when she sits with Wilf on the hill.
Definitely.
She's
Absolutely.
so good.
And this, as I said, this piece of music, I don't have much more to add other than it just perfectly encapsulates who she is as a character and her place within the show.
It was very close to being on mine. Very close.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. Alright, my next pick, very obvious one. It's one of the most popular Monogold tracks. It's Doomsday. Fucking extraordinary. It's not only is it so perfect for the wall scene, but it also like is an actual really like it's a fun piece of music to actually listen to, you know, as a piece of music. It's kind of just, I've always seen, like, I know a lot of people say I'm the Doctor, but for me this is like Murray Gold's kind of signature track, because it just has all the things that I come to expect from him. It's got piano, it's got guitar, it's got strings, it's got a lovely female choral vocalist, and it's really emotional, it's really well written and really catchy, but it doesn't feel like it's cheap when it's catchy.
Yeah.
It's actually like more just building on the emotion of it, and it's great. It's great. It's so good that it's one of the only examples of when we've listened to it during a review, and then after we wrapped up, Jake then went to listen to it again on Spotify because he wanted to hear it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant piece of music.
Yeah. And I think honestly the vocalist in it, the female who is the vocalist in this, it's some of my favorite vocals I've ever heard in this song. Although that's kind of consistent throughout a lot of Murray Gold's themes in the RTD era.
Definitely. Definitely.
It's if I were to pick from memory, if I were to pick like one song that probably has my favorite female like chorus vocals ever, it's The Great Gig in the Sky by Pink Floyd, because that whole song is built around those vocals. But I think Murray Gold kind of pulls off a sort of similar thing with the way he uses female vocals in his tracks, which will be another factor in another track we talk about later.
Definitely.
But yeah, this Doomsday is a banger and fitting of the episode and the finale, and it's just the cherry on the cake, really. Like, I could not think of more perfect music to fit that scene. You know, to the first big New Who companion exit, because like, you know, we had Adam Mitchell and we had Jack and we had Mickey, right? But like Rose was the companion when New Who started, and
definitely.
It was a big deal when she left. It was like when Susan left in the Dalek Invasion of Earth, or like when Sarah Jane left in the Hand of Fear, or when Joe left in the Green Death. It was like Russell T knew that this was a big moment because people had been invested in this character. And a theme like Doomsday, like you couldn't fit that scene more than that theme. Like it's so good.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. So what's your next pick?
My next pick is, now this is another one I couldn't find an official release for, and it's technically a reworking of another theme, but it's called The Return of Captain Jack, where ostensibly it is just a slightly upped tempo version of the Torchwood theme, but it's got more driving electric guitars and more of a pace as Jack is sprinting to get to the TARDIS, and then brilliantly segues into the main theme. It's a little piece of music, but that over the
pre-title sequence of Utopia, right?
Correct. And it's just this. It's my favourite version of the Torchwood theme outside of Children of Earth, but that's Torchwood.
No spoilers.
Yeah, but the
that just reminds me of. I got so much to look forward to with that, with Torchwood. I haven't seen past Dead Man Walking, so there's a whole bunch of episodes people looking forward to, like A Day in the Death, Adrift. Especially, actually, for Chris Chibnall's sake, I'm really looking forward to Adrift, because I've heard so many people say it's his best episode. That, and also Fragments and Exit Wounds is a 3-parter. And then, of course, obviously Children of Earth. Like, I mean, the fact that the subscribers are telling me it's the best thing Russell's ever done, I'm like, well, count me in.
I can neither confirm nor deny anything about Children of Earth, nor my opinions on it at this time.
Anyway, so yeah, you chose...
The Return of Captain Jack, it just has this driving, exciting, and it's so short. It's like 30 seconds, but it's just a little piece of music that I absolutely love, and it just perfectly kicks off that final stretch of episodes in Series 3. And that kind of energy that carries through the rest of it, and it's just wonderful. I love it, I love it, I love it.
Brilliant. Alright, my next pick. I'm going to take a hazard guess and say it's probably one of yours. I hope it is, because if it's not, then you've forgotten another brilliant one. I've got 2 themes down because they kind of tie together.
Yes.
Martha's Theme / Martha Triumphant.
Correct.
Yes.
It is on my list.
So we've already talked at length about Martha's Theme in the Smith and Jones review. It's the best companion theme we've ever had.
100%.
It's incredible. It tells her entire story, not only through Smith and Jones, but throughout the whole series.
Yep.
the only thing that it doesn't tell you is the very end of the series, which is why you get Martha Triumphant, which is the Last of the Time Lords version of that theme, and that is also brilliant because it's so powerful. It shows the growth she's been on, and that theme, rather than it being shy and unsure about where life's going to go, but hopeful, it's now confirmed.
Yes, and absolutely. It's that final payoff to her whole arc that has been presented musically. I mean, if you listen to this first, the Martha Jones theme and then Martha Triumphant, it is a perfect encapsulating of what that first piece was saying, and then you add that on top of it being presented in the show and within the context of the story, and it is just amazing. And it's so good. The
narrative linking in between, because the part for me that really sells it is, in the original Martha's theme, you have the build-up of the one female vocalist going, and it kind of emphasizes her meeting the Doctor, right? But with the final version, with Martha Triumphant, when you get that build-up, it's an entire orchestra of it. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, it's like she has the world now. And it's just...
Absolutely.
Man, I love it. Yeah.
It's very good.
Like Doomsday, it has brilliant vocal use of a female vocalist to just give so much heart and soul and humanity to the song. And yeah, Murray Gold is just brilliant with character themes.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is why I want the Series 10 soundtrack to come out, because I want to hear Bill's theme.
Same! I love Bill's theme.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. Anyway, what's your next choice?
My next choice is probably an obvious one for me. It is the Master's theme.
Is this the Master Vainglorious?
Yes.
I've got that down as the Master Vainglorious, which is from The Sound of Drums, and also the Master Suite from The End of Time, because there's two different versions of it.
But that main theme across both of those stories. It's just, I mean, it perfectly sums up John Sims' Master and the way it builds up from Derek Jacobi and how it eventually segues into him, and then in the next one, when he's talking on the phone and he introduces the toclophane, and whenever anything horrific happens, there's this really sharp, stabbing sound, which represents, obviously, the drums in the Master's head, but also the kind of pain and suffering that the Master is putting others through. I think it's just a brilliant encapsulation of his character.
I just love the, I don't know, I can't quite remember what instrument it's called, but it's at the very start of it, it plays this really nasty, uncomfortable instrument, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm whenever I hear that, it's this is a very, I can't quite pinpoint what the word is, but it's like an annoying sound that you want to hear.
Well, it's sort of like, what I picture it almost is like a school alert over the PA system. Yeah. And now a very strict headmaster is about to speak.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of attention please, your master is speaking. It's a patronizing piece of music.
And I could just imagine John Sims' smug face just looking at me oh.
Exactly.
And what Britain really needs is a doctor.
Exactly, yeah. And then obviously the strings build up from there, and it's awesome.
And the way, obviously, Murray Gold uses the drum beat as part of it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in the End of Time, we get the Master Suite version, which is in just this amplified, epic version of it. And it's you get the drumming, but what it represents more so in that one is that he's bringing Gallifrey back, and then as Gallifrey's coming back, it gets louder and louder and louder, and it just becomes... It represents, obviously, the fact that in the End of Time, he's gone even more insane. And the fact
that the actual literal source of the sound of drums is getting closer to him.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that every single person on Earth is him and can hear the drums. It's like this just gargantuan, drum beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, the Master's theme is just, it's so perfect for John Sim. Like, it just, I can't put it any better than that. Just his personality and this theme go together so well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of Series 3,
yes,
my next choice is also from that story.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is... because picking a favourite Marigold theme is really hard, and it changes all the time, but this is one that's definitely gone in and out of being my favourite.
Yes.
And that is This Is Gallifrey, our
Correct.
childhood,
Snap.
our home.
Snap.
From the
Snap.
sound,
Snap.
from the Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords, and it's been reworked a couple of times. I think it was reworked in Our Name of the Doctor as well.
It was epic. I think they maybe switched it to the major key or something. I'm not sure exactly what he did, but he made it big and bombastic and exciting in that pull out and reveal.
But yeah, but for what Russell T was doing with Gallifrey and New Who, where he made it much more mythological and sort of this big thing than it was before, and the way that in Series 3, the way the Doctor bigs it up and the way he talks about Gallifrey and in memory of it now that it's gone, and just that whole scene in the Sound of Drums where they're sitting there and he tells Martha and Jack about Gallifrey, and you see it, you see the Citadel and you see the roads and you see the sky and you hear that music. It's just, it's so good.
It's fantastic, and it's so sweeping and moving, and it just perfectly encapsulates that sense of nostalgia both the Doctor and the Master have for it, but also that sort of, there's a little bit of that fear, that regret, that pain there. It's not fully optimistic and cheerful. It's quite a melancholy piece.
Absolutely. But
which perfectly sums up the Doctor's psyche at that time.
But the grandiose nature of the theme is so epic that if this was in like a John Williams film, it wouldn't even sound out of place. Like, it has so much to it. It's just it's so giant.
It's amazing.
But it also has, like, you know, those Marigold, like, more humble elements, like the acoustic guitar. It has the, you know, all the small parts, and it's just it's so good.
It's just fantastic. It's utterly brilliant. It's the scene where the Doctor is sitting down and talking to Jack and Martha about Gallifrey and the Master specifically. That's the first time I remember as a kid truly noticing the music and appreciating it.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Alright, your next choice.
Where are we? Okay, this is another one that doesn't have a proper official release, and it's also a reworking of another one, which I sort of have doubled up, but I think it's different enough that it can be counted as its own thing, which is simply No Sir, All 13.
Yes.
Which is technically a reworking of I Am the Doctor, but it's I Am the Doctor sampled with a new melody over the top of it, which creates this new bombastic, exciting thing where it's like, aha, the War Doctor has found hope and peace after all these years, and here we have this celebration of the history of the show and the history of the character, and also this exciting tease of, oh, here comes Capaldi, and he looks pissed. You know, it's this... it's just this... Exactly, it's just this wonderful... It's one of these sort of brief ones. It builds and builds and builds over the scene, but it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then once they're all flying in to save Gallifrey, without a shed of blood, it's just genius. I love it.
Absolutely. I'll never forget when I first saw that scene. Not just for Capaldi, but also like the fact that Moffat used that bit from Parting of the Ways with Eccleston.
Yes.
And for my next trick. Euphoric fan service.
Absolutely.
Yes. My next choice is The Greatest Story Never Told from Forest of the Dead.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I would say Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead is one of the best Murray Gold scores for like a story.
Definitely.
Probably top 5, I would say, in terms of his whole run, in terms of best episodes for like music as a whole. And this caps it off really. Like, Greatest Story Never Told not only encapsulates Donna's time, you know, with her, you know, the partner she had in the hard drive.
Yeah.
and it's like it's her returning, right? But more so than that, it's so perfect for Tennant and River Song in that story. Like the fact that for River Song they have so much history and she knows all of it, and it's like it's this whole theme represents the fact that she knows everything and he knows nothing, but he trusts her because she knows his name, and it's like, it's so epic, and it's just such the perfect like pinnacle of the climax of the story, and
it's just
amazing.
It's one of those very sort of sweeping, adventurous ones that has that deep emotional punch to it as well. And as you said, it's the Doctor implicitly trusting River because of the adventure to come.
Yeah, like Stephen Moffat was so good in the Davies era that when he did like the second two-parter before the finale, whether that be Empty Child Doctor Dances or Silence in the Library Forest of the Dead, he managed to make it feel like a finale before the finale actually happened.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was on Russell to top it, and Russell often did, really. Like, he did top it. Like, he went big balls out. But, Moffat had this, like, I think when people watched Silence in the Library Forest of the Dead, they had a feeling like this guy's going to take over after Russell leaves, and he did.
Oh, definitely. Oh, it would have been insane not to choose him.
Mm-hmm. And I would argue that two-parter in Series 4, it feels more like a finale than some of Moffat's actual finales.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would concur.
Yeah, it's, The Greatest Story Never Told is great, and it's hard to really talk about specifically in words, because it is, at its core, it is, like, on an instrumental level. It is very much Murray Gold's signature sound of bombastic orchestra and string and all that. But it's more so the way it's made and the melody of it and the way it builds and the way it caps off the story. It's epic. It's one of his most epic themes he's done.
Yeah.
What is your next choice?
Let me have a look. Oh, yes. I don't know if it's got a name, but Davros. The Davros theme.
Ah, yes.
Which is
It's called Davros.
Sickening piece of music. It's horribly discordant and just plucky, and it just sort of grabs you by the intestines and rips them out. You know, it's disgusting. I hate it, but it's so effective in terms of conveying Davros as a character, this repulsive...
It's almost like audible horror.
It is. It absolutely is. And it perfectly encapsulates that sinking feeling the Doctor feels once he hears Davros's voice. He's like, oh no, oh shit. I lost everyone, and yet Davros survived.
Like, if there was such a thing as instrumental gore, this is it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so... And all the sort of slamming on the keys and the sort of hum in the middle of it, and it's just...
Oh, it's ugly. It's really ugly.
It is. It's an ugly piece of music, and it works tremendously well.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's not on my list, but it is definitely a great one.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. I often feel like with characters, especially characters that are returning, but also just characters in general, like Russell will just give Murray Gold a description of who that person is, and Murray Gold will be like, well, I want the music to sound like the way you've described. You know?
Yeah.
That's kind of
definitely.
That's definitely the case here.
Mm-hmm. And it just works. I think it just works brilliantly.
Yes. Speaking of Series 4.
Yes.
Midnight.
Snap.
Yeah. So from the very, even the first second, that just high-pitched whistling noise just gets into your system.
It's
like
chilling.
It's like in Civil War when Ant-Man's inside Tony's suit, and is messing it all up. Like, that's how it feels. Like, it just feels like the sound is entering your body, and that is perfect for Midnight.
It's invasive. It's an invasive piece of music. It gets under your skin. It unsettles you, and it's, as you said, it's perfect for Midnight. It just a flawless piece of music for a flawless episode, in my opinion.
And I love the way that when Murray Gold's building it up, it's so juxtaposed, because because usually when you build up a song, you go up, up, up. Whereas Murray Gold uses the instruments and makes them wane and cry.
I know, just the way it's used in the episode as well, particularly after it's come in and everyone's sort of arguing, and I think it's Jethro points out that Sky is in the corner. And the fact that I remember any of these characters' names as well is a testament to this brilliant episode. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And the music is just that horrid bow that ties it all together.
And then when you get... And for me, like, the peak of Midnight is when... I mean, obviously, like, the peak of Midnight's the whole thing. But the scene, the part of this fucking episode that always sticks out to me, and this is very linked to the music, is when the argument turns on the Doctor, and it says, "Why should we trust you?" And it's like, and he says, "Because I'm clever."
It's sickening. It's rabid. It feels like a rabid song.
Yeah. Oh man. And it's so intense, and it's the most like blood pumping song that Murray Gold's done.
Oh, yeah. It's superb.
Yeah. Like, if you don't have anxiety already, you will be diagnosed after watching this episode because of that sound.
It's terrifying. It's genuinely terrifying.
Ugh.
And I'm a massive horror movie and thriller movie buff, but so few soundtracks, in fact, barely any, affect me the way that Midnight does.
Oh, yeah. It's psychological horror at its absolute best. Alright. You next.
The Dark and Endless Night.
Ah, yes, is this the Dalek theme from Journey's End?
Yes, so ostensibly it's the same theme as we've heard before with the Daleks, except now everyone's dying, the universe is gonna die, we're all dead, everything's dead, the Doctor's dead, everyone's dead, death reigns upon us. It is doom beyond comprehension. It is just death upon death upon death upon death, and the Daleks are mocking and laughing at us for it. It is fucked. It's so good. It's so daunting. And the one scene that sticks in my head more than any of the others associated with this music is Sarah Jane in her house with Mr. Smith coming out of the wall, and he's playing the broadcast. And then suddenly she hears the Daleks and just immediately grabs Luke and starts crying. And there's just the fear in this typically stone cold badass of a character, you know, who's very rarely truly afraid. But you can just feel the panic in her voice, this deep subconscious fear that she hasn't felt in a long time. And if the music hadn't worked in that moment, it wouldn't have been nearly as powerful, despite how superb Elizabeth Sladen's performance was in that moment. It was terrific. But the music just elevated it to another level.
The music just amplifies the inner monologue.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just that reveal of, you know, everyone across the characters that we've met, and all of them are saying, "Oh, we're fucked."
Yeah. I suppose you could blend this into also the Dalek theme from Series 1 as well, because they're kind of the same.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. It's just that this is the Dalek scene from Series 1 on steroids.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. I mean, Series 4 did that a lot. They took a lot of themes from before and put them on steroids. Not just, like, the themes in the show, in the episodes, but also the opening theme as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which I decided not to put on this list because I felt like that would be a cheat.
Oh no, we're not doing opening themes.
Yeah.
But there may or may not be a video in this calendar where Callum and I talk about something related to that. We'll have to find out. Oh, teasing. All right. Should I go for my next one?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, so the next one's a bit of a compile of themes.
Yep.
The reason why is that I feel like you could make a suite out of this episode, and there's a lot of stuff that's unreleased. I'm really not happy that it's all unreleased. Not all of it, but some of it's unreleased. Hopefully someday Murray Gold will do like an unreleased album. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But I have compiled together a bunch of themes from the Waters of Mars.
Oh, brilliant, yes.
And the main ones I'm going to talk about are Letter to Earth, The Fate of Little Adelaide, and Altering Lives.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so Letter to Earth obviously happens at the very start of the episode.
Yeah.
And straight away, there's something different about this sound. Like, I can't quite put my finger up. There's no other Murray Gold soundtrack in Doctor Who that sounds like this theme. It has this really bizarre, futuristic, but dreadful sound to it. And it's the part that really gets me is when it goes, you know, that part?
Yes.
And it just has this, I don't know what it is about it, but there's just something different about it. And it's really like, it really foreshadows the story.
You can just tell that something will be off. Not that something is off, but it's like this sword of Damocles that's hanging above the story that's just waiting to fall, which in this case is the Doctor succumbing to his ego and his fear of loss.
Absolutely. And also the flood as well.
Yes, and the flood, absolutely.
Yeah.
Both the external and internal threat
Yes.
is sort of amplified by this music.
But also the fate of little Adelaide. The scene where it cuts back to, like you said before with Journey's End, there's so many themes that are linked to that story. But that scene where they flash back to Adelaide as a child in the Dalek invasion when the Dalek looked at her and turned away because it knew that she had to live. It's just, it has that childlike innocence to it, but it's also just so sad.
It's this whole idea of, okay, you get to live so that you can die.
And then you get Altering Lives, where it's just like, again, it's just the whole theme around the story of, not only is it like that futuristic, not pure historical, it's like a futuristic historical, with Adelaide being the historical figure, and you've got the flood with all the horror, combine that together, but also for the Doctor, his finally some coming to his ego fully now that Donna is gone, and doing what he's been doing since his first day, like he did with Harriet Jones with Don't You Think She Looks Tired, and all the consequences coming of changing fixed time, removing the golden age, but just again him going against the grain, realizing he's the last of the Time Lords, saying the laws of time are mine and they will obey me. And that Altering Lives theme is just like, it's the Doctor realizing that he has the power to change time and people like a god would. There is one other theme from Waters of Mars that I'll talk about later, but it's more to do with another story. I'm sure you can have a guess at what that is.
Yes.
But these three themes to me, they're all quite small, so it's hard to talk about them just as one. I thought I would compile them together, because the Waters of Mars, in terms of its audible storytelling with the music, is very intrinsically linked. And I wish more of it was released, because there's only 4 tracks from that story on the soundtrack.
Oh, God.
And it's got some of the best music from Murray Gold, and a lot of it's unreleased.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. Oh. I mean, I had to have something from my favourite episode in it. I had to.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Right, your turn.
All right. Now, I just did The Dark and Endless Night. On the flippity-flop side of that, I've got the Song of Freedom.
Oh, yes. And that's also linked to Songs of Captivity and Freedom from Planet of the Youth.
Yes, exactly. It's pretty much exactly the opposite, as I said, of The Dark and Endless Night. It's this everything coming together in this sort of it's just this joy. It's the portal scene from Avengers Endgame, but done 10 years earlier in Doctor Who.
Absolutely.
And far more uplifting. And it's just this delight seeing all these characters bounce off each other once they've saved the day, but they're like, we've got one more thing we need to do. We need to, restore balance as it was. We need to put the planet back where it belongs. And the Doctor's instructing everyone how to drive the TARDIS, because there's always been this implication that you need maybe 9 pilots or something like that. And so it's much easier if everyone's got a specific station to stand at. And we've got everyone across the 4 seasons that
you get what an actual TARDIS is meant to look like, because it's meant to be flown by multiple Time Lords.
Exactly.
But all these people that have travelled with the Doctor have learnt from him how to do these things.
Yes, and it sort of brings out the best in all these characters, from Mickey to Jack to Jackie to Rose to Donna, and it's just it goes on and on and on. It's Sarah Jane, and it's sublime. It's sublime, and it always puts me in a good mood. when I watch that, and I just get to that moment where the Song of Freedom starts kicking in, and the Doctor is just beaming with pride and
it's
relief
and like I'm like not because obviously Jake criticized the Doctor dances, which we obviously disagree with them on, but in general I'm not the biggest fan of mushy, like cheesy we're a whole happy family endings.
Neither am I.
This one works so well.
Oh god, does it? Yeah,
it's brilliant.
And I think that's part of the reason why I actually like it as much as I do, because typically this kind of sentiment doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
But in this one, it just does. It feels earned, and the music is just the right level of bombast, and it's wonderful.
I mean, I know that, like, I don't think the Stolen Earth Journey's End, I think, is a story that has a few flaws in it, but
oh, for sure.
I've never felt more emotion for a Doctor Who story, ever. It's so full of emotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's amazing. Alright, so let's move on to the next one.
Go for it.
Okay. 4 knocks from the end of time.
Oh, yes.
That moment when... And I watched the Doctor Who Confidential the other day for the episode, Into Time Part 2. And how Russell knew... Like, he didn't know exactly who was going to be in it, but he knew from the beginning that the 10th Doctor's death was going to be a big, like, fight that was going to take place that you would think would be his death. But then once it disappears, it comes down to a very simple decision of saving one person's life. And the fact that after all of that, with Rassilon and Gallifrey and the Master and all of the just insane shit that happened, I mean, he fucking jumped out of a spacecraft and through the bloody ceiling, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But with all of what happened at the end of time, and he's sitting there with cuts on his face, he's injured, he's in pain, but he's sitting there thinking, I survived, I made it, I beat the prophecy, I changed fixed time like I think I can. And then and it's like this uplift, have this uplifting music playing, and then as soon as Wilfred hits the knocking on the glass, that sound drops and 4 knocks plays, and it's just this. For me, it's the saddest piece of music in the show.
It just sort of sucks all the energy out of the room in the best possible way.
And just that slow build-up of the sound and the really soft piano sound, and as the strings slowly build up and get louder and louder, and then obviously you get the Doctor raging against the dying of the light, it's not fair and all that. But then, obviously, he knows the whole time he's going to sacrifice himself for Wilf, and he says,
of course he would.
Wilfred, it's my honour. And as soon as he steps inside the chamber and he starts to get killed by the radiation, that music just escalates, and you just hear the strings going hard, and it's the tearjerker for me. I've never felt more like angst and sadness and like choking up in my throat viewing the show than hearing that piece of music in that episode. It is exquisite. It's one of my absolute favourite pieces of Murray Gold music by far.
It's heartbreaking.
I absolutely love it. Right, your next one.
My next one. Well, I think this is a very appropriate one to follow on from that, but Valet Decem.
And that also was going to link with Valet as well,
which
is the build-up to that song. And that not only plays at the end of time, but it plays very specifically at the end of the Waters of Mars. There's a version of Valet which is nicknamed the Time Lord Victorious. And it has so much dread to it. And then, like you say, once you actually get the real regeneration, we will sing you to your sleep, you get Valet Decem, which is like the final version of it.
Yeah, it's that full sort of, even though he says, I don't want to go, it's for the audience, that acceptance of it's inevitable, we've got to move on, we've got to move forward, we've got to plow through, it's happening whether we like it or not. And it's just, it's a stunning, stunning piece of music.
Yeah. And it calls back on, like, the Doctor's themes from the past, you get bits from the Doctor's theme from Series 1 and 4, and you get also bits from the Doctor Forever in it as well. And it's this beautiful just rendition of all the 10th Doctor's themes together in this massive orchestra.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. But, I mean, I love Valet de Shem, but for me, nothing will ever hit me more than that scene in the Waters of Mars after he saved Adelaide and the two others.
Yes.
And she's like, there's no one to stop you, not anymore. And it's playing the Valet, and it's like, boom, 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 boom. And then she commits suicide, and he realizes what he's doing, and then the music recedes, and it attacks you in the ear with this like really high-pitched string sound.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the Doctors realize that his actions have caused a woman to kill herself, it plays that oud sound of Valet, and it's just oh my god.
Stunning. It is stunning.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the whole arc of the specials from Planet of the Dead when he hears the prophecy from, I can't remember her name, but the whole arc from him in that on is the fact that he knows that death is coming and he's trying to stop it. He's refusing to go. And I feel like this piece of music perfectly fits that dread that he has.
Yeah.
With the fact that he's putting out at all stops to like refusing the prophecy, refusing to accept what's coming. And the theme just, and the fact that his actions caused things worse to happen than what would have if he had accepted what his prophecy was. Again, it's like that dread increases in the music. And that's what makes Valet de Shem so satisfying, is that you get all that dread is removed and it's this complete final goodbye version of the theme.
It's that farewell.
Yes. Also, I believe Valet de Shem is Roman for goodbye 10.
Yes.
Yes. Very meta. Alright.
What is your next one?
Alright, finally we move out the Russell Air for me. I know you've already done Day of the Doctor for yours, but I'm finally going to move out of the Russell Air for a bit. Amy's theme.
Ah, yes.
Amy's theme from Series 5. It's just... It uses the same method of having a female vocalist like Rose and... well, not necessarily Rose, but like the Doomsday, the Father theme and all that, and the Doctor's theme, and Lamartha's theme from Series 3. It uses the same method of having a female vocalist, but this is a lot different. This is way... Like, the whole tone and genre of the sound is completely different to what it was before. And whilst, in terms of the actual narrative, personally, I'm not that big on the whole fairy tale thing in Series 5. The one thing about it that I think works absolutely perfectly is the way Murray Gold evolved his music. And for me, the most evident example of this, because I know people will always mention, I Am the Doctor and A Madman in the Box.
Yeah.
But for me, the most absolute pinnacle of this is Amy's theme. And it's so perfect for her.
Oh, it totally is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
It's got such a lovely, comfortable sound to it, but it has that magical fairy tale bit as well.
Yeah. It's perfectly in keeping with what Series 5 is, and sort of what Moffat's mission statement seemed to be
and
for
also,
these characters.
Murray Gold's bombast in this is a lot different to what it was before. Because this bombast in the Davies era is very, cinematic. It's very, lots of drums, lots of strings, lots of guitar, lots of sound, attack, attack, attack. Whereas here, it's all in the energy and the flow, and the ebb and flow of the song and the vocals, and it's very... It's not as hard. It's a lot more, just natural.
Yes.
I quite like that. It definitely sets it apart, and I think Murray Gold evolving a sound to fit a new showrunner was a good idea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He evolved himself, as you said.
Yeah. But yeah, Amy's theme is excellent. Your next one.
My next one is probably the most overplayed piece of music in the show.
Yeah.
However, it is the most overplayed for a very good reason. I Am the Doctor is a superb piece of music that wonderfully encapsulates Matt Smith's version of the Doctor. Yes, it got way overplayed every moment it could. However, you cannot top that first time we hear it when he does his speech on the roof in 11th Hour. It is just... it's just this adventure, but this sort of wise and big and not intimidated, and then also just late in certain other points, like the Stonehenge speech, for example, other moments throughout his tenure in which they use it. It's just wonderful, and it suits his character absolutely perfectly.
Yes, and in Series 6 onwards, they had another version of that theme called The Majestic Tale of a Madman in a Box, which is like this big bump. It's almost like if I Am the Doctor was like in the Davies era, you know?
Yes,
it's this big orchestra version of it. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I'm really conflicted on this theme, because like you say, like, it's really good. It's a really good theme. But fuck me, I'm so sick of it, because they just play it in every episode. And one of the main reasons why I love the God Complex is that the one time they play it, it's hardly noticeable.
Yeah.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it might be played through a radio.
I think so.
Yeah.
They did tricky things like that in the God Complex, which I really enjoyed.
Oh man, what a beautiful episode that was. But yeah,
It's wonderful.
I Am the Doctor is a great theme. I just wish Moffat would control himself sometimes.
Well, I don't know if it was even his idea. Maybe just, time or the editors or whatever.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's just because there's sometimes when it's used where I feel like it's a bit out of place.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's too big of a song to put in casually for like a, aha, I figured it out. It's much more of a season opener and season finale song.
Especially when you get to like Series 7 and it feels like every time the plot's about to resolve, they play I Am the Doctor.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
It got too much, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it totally did. But I still maintain it's a brilliant, brilliant piece of music that is perfect for Matt Smith's character.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's great. And a lot of people say it's Murray Gold's signature track because it's the most popular one, I think.
Yeah.
Alright. This one that I'm about to choose, it might surprise some people. But if you haven't listened to it in a while, I suggest re-listening to it again. Because my next choice is Day of the Moon.
Oh, yes.
Day of the Moon is fucking great. It is so epic. And it's... oh, God, because it's frustrating, because people know how I feel about Series 6.
Yeah.
Like, I have so many issues with Series 6, but... Jesus Christ. Day of the Moon is not... it's not only played in the episode Day of the Moon, I believe it's played throughout quite a bit of Series 6.
Yeah.
But when you talk about taking the Smith era into a new sort of stratosphere and making it a lot more, like, Americanized... this is the one area where I feel like it absolutely works. Because Day of the Moon, the sound... when I hear it, I can see the scale of that two-parter. But not only the scale, but it also has the horror element of the silence in it as well. And it's just this big, big piece of music that I can't remember how long it is, but I think it's one of the more longer tracks. But it's just it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it just has this very unique sound to it that I really like. I mean, as much as I criticize Series 6, I think Series 6 has some fucking brilliant music, like really good music.
I fully agree there.
There's like a 3-episode in a row section from like Night Terrors, The Girl Who Waited in the God Complex, where all of the music is really trippy and really experimental and really good.
Absolutely.
And 2 episodes that I'm not a fan of at all. The Curse of the Black Spot and The Flesh Two-Parter both have great music.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Like Deadly Silent and The Chemical Castle almost got on the list. They were that good. But yeah, Day of the Moon is a brilliant track. If anyone isn't familiar with it, I suggest you go listen to it again because it's really good.
Yeah, it's superb.
Your next one.
My next one is... this is a bit of a wild card one. Again, it's an unreleased one, but it is called Colony Ship. It is the opening track from World Enough in Time.
Ah, yes. God,
As
in
we
the Series 10 soundtrack, please.
Yeah, and it starts on the end of the ship with the black hole, and it just pulls out and pulls out and pulls out. And I was listening through tracks today just to sort of remind me what they sounded like, and this one stood out to me. It's like Murray Gold saying, this is the last sort of, we're in the home stretch for me being the composer here. This is the home stretch for Moffat being the writer. This may seem like a pretty quaint story to begin with, but trust me, you're in for a treat. It may feel small on the inside, but look at the scale of this thing. Feel the scale. I hate constantly comparing things to Star Wars, because Star Wars is not the be-all and end-all of cinema. Far, far, far from it. However, it's like that opening shot of Episode 4 of the original Star Wars, when we get the Corellian freighter, or no, that's the Millennium Falcon, but the little rebel ship goes overhead, and then the Star Destroyer comes over the horizon, and it's that looming, just stretched out feeling of intimidation, and it's that same sort of feeling that I get watching the opening of World Enough in Time, which sort of sets this adventure in motion, and then once all the pieces fall into place, we've got Missy pretending to be the Doctor, and yada yada yada, and only just before the credits even roll, I think, Bill gets shot and essentially killed. But right before that, we have that build-up of the colony ship. It's just an establishing shot. But it's an establishing shot with so much oomph, not just because of the brilliant production design and CGI work from the mill and everyone involved there, but Murray Gold, as I said, basically saying, we're in it for the home stretch now, get excited with this piece of music, and it's superb. Superb piece of music.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but Ace Creeper, the YouTuber, has made a film noir version of World Enough in Time.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So, my next choice is a compilation of themes. The reason why they come together, I'll explain. But the 4 themes that compile together are, there's 2 of them from the Rings of Akaten, and there's 2 of them from the Name of the Doctor.
Yeah.
So the 2 from the Rings of Akaten are Infinite Potential and the Long Song. Everyone probably is aware of the Long Song. It's one of the, I think it's on Spotify, it's the Murray Gold song that has like the most downloads or something. So those 2 tracks, also with 2 tracks from Name of the Doctor, Trenzalore and I Am Information.
Yep.
And the reason why all 4 of those come together is because in the Time of the Doctor, these 4 themes play in Matt Smith's regeneration scene.
That's right. Yes.
And even though, by God, I do not like Time of the Doctor, the one really good thing I have to say about it is that regeneration scene. It's the only positive thing I have to say about that whole story, because, oh my God, that regeneration scene, the acting from Smith is brilliant, but the most emotion that it pulls out of me, and did I remember when I first watched it as a teenager, is the soundtrack of Trenzalore, I Am Information, The Long Song, and Infinite Potential. It perfectly encapsulates, this is an old man in a young man's body, ready to die.
Yeah.
But there is still hope. The Long Song, that track that plays over that speech from Smith in the Rings of Akaten, is so powerful. And it just perfectly encapsulates his life, his achievements, all the things he's seen and done. And by Series 7, when the War Doctor became a thing, Moffat had sort of figured out that he was the last of the first, cycle. Obviously, this is not accounting for the fact that the Timeless Child wasn't a thing yet. But, but it's like the first of the cycle that we've seen on TV. And it's like, despite looking the youngest, he is the oldest Doctor inside. Yeah. And it's just... This track, like, with that sound of Trenzalore going into the Long Song, it just perfectly encapsulates Smith's Doctor and what Smith's Doctor is meant to be. And in that regeneration scene, just hearing that old sound of Trenzalore, that is so heartwarming, and I can't even describe it. It's just, again, like with Day of the Moon, there's something so unique about that sound. And I think these pieces of music are probably, aside from A Town Called Mercy, are probably my favourite things to come out of Series 7. because I'm not big on Series 7, but man, this music is perfect for Matt's regeneration scene. Like, unlike, Eccleston, Tennant, and Capaldi, it doesn't pick one song to go with for the regeneration. It compiles together a bunch of them.
Yeah.
To sort of highlight all the different aspects of, Smith. And just that moment when the long song climaxes and, the vision of Amy Pond walks down the stairs and says, Raggedy Man, good night, it's just, that's it. And of course it transitions into again, once looping back around to I Am Information when he takes the bow tie off and then regenerates. That's just, it's so good. It's so
and then immediately
good.
the tempo shifts and it just completely changes and it's, brings in Capaldi.
Also, talking before in the, we were talking earlier in the video about female vocalists, the fact that the long song is sung by a child.
Yeah.
Yet it's so powerful. Yeah, I love it.
Terrific work.
Great stuff. Alright, your next choice.
Speaking of Capaldi, this might be an unexpected one, but a good man, / full stop, depending on which version you read.
Yes, Twilight Doctor's theme.
I just love it. I don't know, ever since Deep Breath, I'm like, I like this theme, because as I think I've made clear, I've always loved the idea of what Moffat was going for with the 12th Doctor. I don't think it always landed, per se.
Oh, I will firmly stand by, because I've watched a couple of episodes recently.
Yeah.
I will firmly stand by that if Series 8 was executed to its full potential, it would be the best series ever.
I agree. Its
ideas are the best ideas that the show's ever had for the characters. I don't like the execution necessarily, but if it was fully realized, it would be the best one. It's so good.
Yeah, and I think, like I was saying with the other Doctor's themes before as well, this one just fits Capaldi perfectly because it's sort of a bit more mechanical and cold, but it also has this sort of level of whimsy and sort of maturity to it that sort of feels like an old sage or an old wizard or a druid of some kind would suit this music as well, where it's like the seriousness of Capaldi and the sort of edge that he has, not to be outdone by the sort of inquisitive side that he has also. It's him sort of conflicted with where do his morals lie, where does he go now, and all that jazz, and it's just, I think it's terrific.
And there's a
music.
remixed version of this theme in Face the Raven when he enters into the story that's like this beat to it. It's like da 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 da.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
All right. Speaking of Capaldi, and this one is possibly the most unexpected one.
Yep.
Because it's from Sleep No More.
Oh.
And it is the only good thing about the whole story. And that is the song called the Morpheus Song.
Oh, yes.
So, I think Murray Gold said when he was on the Series 9 soundtrack, he had a bit of words to say about the album.
Yeah.
And what he had to say about the Morpheus Song was, this is either something that you will skip over, or it's what you wanted me to do the whole time. Because this is Murray Gold doing a classic Who score.
Yes.
This is not a song in any way. It doesn't have a beat, it doesn't have a rhythm. It's just pure sound. And it is so good. It is so good, and I'm so annoyed that it was wasted on such a terrible episode. But every time I listen to it, it has such atmosphere to it. The sound of, obviously it's a found footage episode, and the way it transitions in with the bo 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 bo, and it just sounds like a machine, and it's and its parts moving, and then just the sound of the ship carrier they're on, and it has such a horror element to it, and then there's just these bits where you can hear these really abstract sounds in it, and it is unlike anything else Murray Gold's done in the show. And it's very comparable to those really unsettling classic Who scores you get. I suggest people give it a chance because it is essentially when Classic Who fans that don't like Murray Gold say, "Oh, he's too bombastic, he's too focused on themes. I don't like this, I don't like that." This is what they wanted out of him, because it doesn't have that, chart-topping rhythm to it. It has such a eerie and uncomfortable sound to it, but it's so good. Like it is the definition of experimental done right, as opposed to the episode itself, which is experimental done wrong.
Yes.
All right, what is your next choice?
I mean, it's probably a pretty obvious choice, but the Doctor Forever.
Oh yes.
I mean, it's the Doctor Forever. It's the Doctor Forever. If you don't know it, listen to it, and you will know it. It's just, I don't know. Perfectly sums up David Tennant's character. Like I was saying before with the Capaldi one, it particularly hits an emotional chord with me because, it's a deep nostalgic song as well.
Series 3.
Yeah, man. And it's just right for what the tone and for what the theme and the sensibilities of this version of the character and both the overall arc and everything was doing. It just fits really well, and it's a beautiful piece, quite a delicate and gentle piece, but it's one wrought with this sort of element of tragedy, and I really, really like it.
And it has a nice mirror and melody to Martha's theme as well.
Yes, absolutely. It's sort of like two parallel stories, but they never quite intersect, which is like the whole point of the story between Martha and the Doctor throughout Series 3.
And then, of course, it transitions into the action part, which obviously, in episodes like Gridlock, and it just perfectly fits Tennant, the Tennant, the action man.
Yeah, it's whimsical as well as serious, and it does all this without conflicting with each other, and it just always fits when it's put into an episode.
Absolutely.
And I just really love it.
Absolutely. All right, now this one as well that I'm about to talk about, not necessarily a surprise for the song itself, but for the episode it's in.
Yep.
Because, and it kind of pains me to say this, because I don't like the title of the song because it reminds me of what it's about, and I don't like the fact that I'm talking about this episode, but I have to give credit where it's due. A Duty of Care from Hell Bent is so good. It's
gorgeous.
It's so good, and it is the best thing about Hellbent by far. It is everything that Moffat wants it to be, but couldn't be. But speaking specifically about the music, like, I hate the scenes that it's in. I hate the whole pretentious bullshit with Clara and the Doctor. I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. But when I take myself out of the episode and listen to this as an isolated piece of music, it is perfect. It's so full of emotion. It's so mature, and it's sad, and it's just, man, like, I can't believe it. It's so good.
It's so good. Yeah, man.
Oh my god, I love it. I absolutely love it, and the way it builds up with the burner, and I love the way that, like, it's almost like an afterword to, and the one that I think you're about to talk about after, if I'm got my maths right. But it is an afterword to the previous episode.
Yes.
And just, it is so emotionally fulfilling, and just like Sleep No More with the Morpheus song, I wish the song was used better, like, in terms of the episode. I mean, I know that for people that like the episode, it will fit.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
But for me, it's just frustrating because obviously, you know how we feel about the episode.
Yeah.
But man, oh my god, A Duty of Care as a song, it's just, it's exquisite. It's so good.
It's gorgeous.
And it really frustrates me that one of Murray Gold's best songs comes from my least favorite episode. Like, it's like the show is trying to be vindictive to me. But yeah, nothing but praise for that. It's, oh my god.
Yeah.
I love the bit, like, it starts out with the build-up and, like, the soft, like, sort of dark, sad-sounding guitar bits. And it goes into the strings, but then when all of that sound stops and it just hits that high-pitched string and it just tears your heart out. It's oh man, beautiful. All right,
It is.
I believe the next one your last one.
No, I've got 3 more.
You got 3 more. Okay.
I've got 3 more.
All right, your next one.
Now, this is a bit of a wildcard one, but it's one that has a deep relevance to me. It's an unreleased one called Lucius Petrus Dexterus, which is the theme to that character from the Fires of Pompeii.
Oh,
Now,
yes.
I know I've told you this, but I don't know if I've actually said it on the channel before. But for years after its initial broadcast, this little snippet of a song, which was dum da dum dum da dum dum da dum da 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 dum, and it was that beat, that rhythm, that melody was stuck in my head for 7 goddamn years before I figured out what it was. It was just when I was at school, I would be writing something and it would randomly pop into my head. I'd be humming it and I'd go to my friends and I'd sing it to them and be like, do you recognize this song? Where is it from? This is driving me insane. I do not know what it is. I know it's when someone in some form of regal outfit is walking into a door. But that's it. That's all the information I have. So when eventually I got around to rewatching The Fires of Pompeii, I screamed at my television in excitement because I found out what this thing that had been haunting me was. It was awesome. And it's also just a great piece of music that perfectly fits this sort of, it's not a hugely three-dimensional villain, but it's sort of a good antagonist for what is, the sort of sub-antagonist to a greater villain. But he, that music that accompanied him is awesome, and I love it, and it's a big, heavy brass section, and it's just fucking cool, and I love it.
Speaking of Fires of Pompeii, a bloody Sibylline Sisterhood is also a great one.
Oh yeah, it's so good. Fires of Pompeii has a great soundtrack.
Everything about Fires of Pompeii is great.
It is, yeah, it totally is.
It's a bloody belter. All right, I've only got one left, I think. So how many do you have left? 2?
Two.
All right, do your second to last one, and then I'll do my last one.
All the strange creatures.
Oh, of course. I how could I forget about that? I didn't put it on mine, and the reason why is I knew you'd have it on yours.
It's I'm the Doctor, but better and more effective, and I find it really cool. And it's quite that when it first starts up, the dun 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 dun, and then it starts building and building and building and building and gets more exciting. It's just like shit is going down music, and it's fucking flawless, and I love it.
Yes.
And every time it's used, it gets me excited. I love it. I love it. I love it.
And as much as great it is this brilliant action theme for the Doctor in series 3 and 4, and especially starting in Gridlock as well. But going through and you got episodes like 42 loves that song.
Oh god. Yeah.
But my favourite use of this song is in The Waters of Mars.
Yes.
When it's used as juxtaposition. Because the Doctor thinks he's saving the day, but he's really fucking it up.
Yes, it's brilliant. It's that sort of dramatic irony that sort of... it's just brilliant. It's so brilliant the way they use that.
And what really annoys me is that there are some people that find that scene confusing because they think the production doesn't know what it's doing. But it's so intended. It's meant to be like
clear.
that. You're meant to feel confused. That's the whole point.
I would have thought so.
Yeah. But yeah, just the fact that it's used in a fucked up way. It's like you associate that theme with the Doctor saving the day, and then it's used in the same way. But you're like, no, stop, stop. And he's like, the laws of time are mine, and they will obey me.
It's sickening.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I love it. Okay, so my last one is a big cheat because it's a compilation of a fucking 20 themes or something. It's nicknamed The Ninth Doctor's Last Stand, which is the suite of music from Bad Wolf and The Parting of the Ways. It is my favourite score from the Davies era. So I will cover what the other themes that it ties to are. So obviously it has Father's Day in it. Father's Day is great. It has the Daleks in it. It has the Doctor's theme in it. And because it has the Doctor's theme in it, this can also link to the Doctor's theme from Series 4. And Turn Left, which is like a reverse version of the Doctor's theme. And that, as a kid, like you said about being like remembering like this is Gallifrey being like the first time
Yes.
you really noticed the music in the show. As a kid, the first time I really noticed the music in the show, apart from Babel Parting the Ways, was in Turn Left when I heard the Doctor's theme played in reverse
Yes.
because he's dead. That is amazing. But specifically talking about Babel Parting the Ways, I said it before when we reviewed the Satan Pit, because that's when we went over it. But it purely comes down to mainly, I mean, obviously all the character themes are blended into it, which is great because it shows how all the episodes of Series 1 tie together into this finale with a grand climax. And my favourite use of the Doctor's theme in the whole show, when you get the scene where the Doctor and the Bad Wolf scene at the very end, and just the way the piano builds into it, it's just, as a kid, that was the moment I fell in love with the show, is the hearing that music in that scene. It's so perfectly used, especially because early in the series the theme had been used very much as like a little come in as a leitmotif, it's very in the distance, especially when Bad Wolf was suggested. But when it's used in the finale, it's the full impact version of that theme.
Yeah, man.
But
that's awesome.
Specifically talking about this story, Murray fucking Gold, had no access to an orchestra, so what he did was he took sound, he sampled sound that you hear in game shows. Like show, not only the opening things, but you hear during game shows, like whenever you like watch The Weakest Link or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or The Chase, you hear certain like electronic sounds.
Yeah, buzzers and things like that.
Yeah, all that, and like just all the in-between stuff. He sampled game show music and he twisted it and fucked it up, and it's the best sound the show's ever produced for me. It is so good, and it's so good that people will have known that at the start of this advent calendar, I have the scene where people will have seen this already, but I have the scene where Linda reveals Babel Corporation and it has our logo over it.
Yes.
But it has that bit where you hear that fucked up game show sound like going, and then it has the chorus of oh, and like when you listen to something like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you hear vocal sounds like playing like oh, like all the time. But when Murray Gold uses it in this two-parter, it's so dark. It's so dark, and it's just oh my god, I can't get enough of it. I've listened to that score so many times. I can't get enough of it. It's so good. And it's it's my second favorite Murray Gold score behind what you're about to talk about.
Yes.
But it's my favorite one from the Davies era. It's my most nostalgic moment ever watching the show, is watching that two-parter, listening to that score, watching that story, and it's just absolutely perfect. It goes through so many phases, so many waves. Oh man, I cannot praise it enough. It is such a compilation of all of the things Murray Gold was doing in Series 1 perfected for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's terrific.
And I think, especially because the one we're about to talk about is quite timeless and very much in the past, this one's very much in the future. It's very futuristic even now. You're like, this definitely sounds like something that, you know, is 200,000 years in the future, or however long it was. I can't remember what it was. But, it's incredible. Your last choice.
Okay, so this is not a definitive ranking or anything, as we were saying, but if we were ranking, this would definitely still be my number one. And it would be a cheat, but I don't care. It's that good. The entirety of the Heaven Sent soundtrack.
Yes, and I'm going to snap and say that's my 21st choice.
Yeah, it's I mean, to give context, the first time I saw Heaven Sent, I was firstly just blown away. I think it's a brilliant piece of television. One of my absolute favourite Doctor Who episodes, and it's sublime. However, the first thing I did after I finished the episode, watching it on broadcast here in New Zealand, is immediately I went onto the internet to try and find the whole soundtrack, because it sounds so different from the rest of Series 9 and backwards and what came after it, and the fact that there are moments of him using like a harpsichord and then synths
and an accordion.
and an accordion. It's like all these different elements from across the show's history, and different parts of the Doctor's psyche are represented by different archaic instruments that sort of bounce off each other, that have all these sort of big separate melodies that also actually overlap and interweave until they all come to a cohesive point. And obviously the Shepherd's Boy and the breaking of the wall towards the end, when he actually gets out one punch at a time whilst he's being pursued by this creature. And it's just this... there was no other soundtrack like it. It is... it is... I literally, I'm lost for words. I cannot quantify it. I do not have the capacity to quantify what makes it so fucking brilliant.
Yeah, it's not just...
But it is.
It's not just the best Murray Gold score. It's one of the best scores I've ever heard.
Same. It's so powerful, it's mysterious, it's a bit cheeky at times, it's weird and off the wall and experimental, and it just fits the character, fits the episode, fits the show, fits everything perfectly. It's genius.
Yeah.
It is genius composing, and I cannot get enough of it.
Yeah.
The Heaven Sent soundtrack blows my mind every time I listen to it.
Yeah, so like if I'm going to go through all the... Because I've got all the different tracks written down here. Not written down, but I've got the Spotify open.
Yeah.
Like A Second Shadow obviously opens the episode, and it has that... straight away, there's something different about it. There's something weird about it. And it just has that weird backwards, almost soft percussion of... And you can't quite figure out what it is. But it just... going along with Capaldi's monologue, then it just perfectly blends into this just old sound. It's just, oh man, it's so good. And then of course you get the Veil, which is really creepy sound. It's the way it I can't quite put my finger on like the words. It almost like when you hear the Veil start, it almost sounds like tree branches ripping apart.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, it's sort of like this. Not crunching, but like snapping noises, and it's really weird and off-putting.
Yeah, and
in the best way.
And the whole sound has this really old orchestra string sound to it, but it's mixed in with the clock, the cogs and the clockwork of the whole place, and it has this very silent little buzzing electronic sound as well. And then you go, oh my god, one of the absolute best tracks from Heaven Sent is A Fly on a Painting.
Yes.
Oh. Masterpiece, absolute masterpiece.
It sort of reminds me of I'm not sure which album it was, but Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys, I think it was. He locked himself away in his house trying to find this new sound, this unfathomable element for his album, and subsequently I think it's Pet Sounds or whatever album it is. Jake would know. I
can't wait for Jake to get to Heaven Sent.
Oh god, yeah. But Brian Wilson created this unique, really interesting, bizarre sound which you wouldn't typically hear in this genre of music, and this feels like Murray Gold's Brian Wilson moment, where he's just sort of like, okay, I've got the Doctor, a weird castle, and a weird enemy. I'm just gonna go mental with it. And it feels like,
And A Fly on a Painting has so much emotional resonance to when he sees Clara in the painting. Yes, and it's this, and it feels also like Murray Gold just being unleashed. It's like all these little things we've got hints of before. Murray Gold's like, no, now I'm just going to do what I want to do, and it's going to be this masterpiece. It's just crazy how we rag on Clara a lot, but it's so bizarre how for like 2 weeks she was one of the best companions.
And the music complemented that just perfectly. It's so good.
Absolutely.
So good.
Oh man. And then of course you got a change of clothes as well. And it brings everything down, and you've got the whole process of him, like, you see the Doctor if he was alone, living life, having to do his whole process of eating and changing and thinking, and it's just... And it has this beautiful sound to the da 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 da. And it's just, I love it. And of course you got like stuff like a mechanical maze again, like all the different like mechanical sounds that he adds, and you can just when you hear the sound of it, you can see it in your mind. You can see the prison he's in.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's great. And another one, Digging a Grave. once again
Yes.
adds so much stress to it. And it's Murray Gold's bombast, but it's not the same.
It's different.
It's different.
It's totally different.
Yeah. Like I was saying about how like Amy's theme has a bombast that's very fairy tale and quite different to the cinematic stuff we got before.
Yeah.
This is an old sound. It's almost Beethoven-esque.
Yeah, exactly. It feels sort of like Baroque or something. It feels like chamber music at times. It's terrific.
Yeah, and then of course you got songs like Tell No Lies, Two Events in Life, Waiting for the Veil, the Final Room. Again, the Final Room, you can really, like, when you watch the episode and you hear the Final Room and you see that diamond wall, and you have him. One of my favourite things that I can't believe, like, I have gotten a habit out of this episode where when I'm walking through a corridor that echoes, I clap my hand, like this, to hear if it can echo, and that's what he does when he walks into the room with the diamond wall. He claps his hand, and just that theme in the Final Room, you can tell that he's reached the end goal.
Yes, yeah.
Because it has this low sound to it. And it's like dum, dum, like almost you can hear the bell tolling. And then of course you got, One Confession Away, Break Free, which transitions through all the different, like him realizing that he has to punch the wall. And,
yes.
And tells the story about, the shepherd's boy and all that. And then also, before we get to the very last one, you've also got Same Old Day, which I would argue almost adds as much of an emotional punch as the last track, because this one not only encapsulates him having to crawl dead up all the stairs full of blood and electrocute himself, but it's also that scene in the TARDIS with Clara when he says, "No matter what I do, you'll still be dead."
Yeah.
And then he lies on the floor and says, "Burn the old body to make a new one." And it's just, it's so dark. And then, of course, the finale, The Shepherd's Boy. It's the best piece of Murray Gold music ever made.
Oh, it's undoubtedly. It's just, oh my god.
Like, it is an orchestra that swells from the ground all the way to the top of the universe.
Yeah, it's sublime.
Yeah. Da, 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 da. And I can't wait for the Series 10 soundtrack, because I can't wait to hear that version from the Doctor Falls that they play as well.
Yeah, that one's awesome. I nearly put that on as a separate item, but I thought, nah, this encompasses it. This is so good.
Yeah, Heaven Sent soundtrack is perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Oh god, yes. Flawless.
And there's even parts that are unreleased, like, believe it or not, even though there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 tracks on the album.
And it's only 50 minutes. It's only maybe 6 minutes longer than your average episode.
Yeah, even though there's 14 tracks on the album, there's still stuff that's unreleased that's really good.
Oh god, yes.
Like, right after... Oh, yeah, the part that they don't play in the soundtrack that's so good. There's a warped version of A Good Man in Heaven Sent. Because you know how in A Good Man it's like meh at the start? In the version in Heaven Sent, it almost sounds like it's echoing through a chamber. And it's so much more high-pitched. It's like...
That's right, yeah.
And I remember that when I first watched the episode, I heard that. I'm like, that is so unsettling. And it's almost like... it gave me flashbacks to when I heard the Doctor's theme in reverse and turn left.
Yeah.
I was just like, what is this version of the theme? It's so different. And what I love about it musically is that this episode, Heaven Sent, is almost the death of A Good Man theme and the birth of the Shepherd's Boy.
Well, the Shepherd's Boy becomes Capaldi's theme.
It becomes Capaldi's theme, and that's why I love it. I love the fact that A Good Man is used in Heaven Sent, but it's almost killed.
It regenerates, for lack of a better term. It regenerates into this new theme.
Yeah. And then there's also a bit, like, right after the opening credits when, it's building up to the veil coming, that's just... I love it. It's such a brilliant build of horror and tension. And it just sounds awesome.
Oh god, yeah.
It sounds awesome.
It's just terrific.
Absolutely terrific. Well, I can't think of anything else to add on that.
No, we can't do it any more justice.
Yeah, Murray Gold is unbelievable.
Just a superb talent.
Yeah, and yeah, I I know that so far going through. What was I gonna say? Yeah, going through Torchwood, there isn't that much. That most of it's done by Ben Foster.
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure aware if Murray Gold was too involved with Children of Earth. I guess I'll find out.
Yeah.
But having heard what I assume is almost all of Murray Gold's music, it's just like it's not perfect. There's some parts of it that I'm a little bit iffy on, but most of it it's unforgettable.
And when it hits, it just hits out of the park.
Absolutely. And yeah. So that's it. That's the video.
That's it. We're done.
That's day one. I hope you all enjoyed it. Tell us below anything we missed or any but your Murray Gold tracks that you love.
Absolutely. Love to hear it.
And I'm sure someday down the line we may do one on the classic series.
Oh god, yeah, that'd be cool.
And yeah, and also just again a shout out to Sega Nakanola because
oh yes, he's terrific. He's sublime as well.
Like he's almost the complete opposite in style to Murray Gold, but he's just as good.
Yeah, absolutely. He was exactly what they needed going forward.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about the lighthouse from Fugitive of the Jadoon.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. And even though upon rewatch I've grown to really not like the Timeless Children, the one massive positive I can say about it is the score.
Oh god.
It is so good. Yeah.
Bravo, Sega.
Yeah, anyway. We're rambling. So, anything else you want to say before we end?
No, I think that's it. Enjoy the Advent. Thank you for watching.
Excellent. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 2.